Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm very excited to have George Carver with me today. After 40 years and multiple careers, a conjunction of business and health crises steered George towards the field of coaching. There he found his health and his calling as a transformative coach. For the past 7 years, he has dedicated himself to understanding the human mind and helping people live lives of love, purpose, and well-being. His practice, Insights Coaching, now serves people who are struggling with life transitions such as retirement, illness, or changing career. Welcome, George. I'm really, really thrilled that we managed to do this. We've only been talking about it for well over a year. So, I'm sorry?
No, I've forgotten it was 2 years. I don't know how long it is, but yeah, no, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
And,
so we've got.
But you've been doing great work. Love what you've been doing, and I think it's really cool how you've landed in this help for people in narcissistic relationships.
Thank you.
Program that you're doing.
I would love to start off. I want to know a little bit about your journey. And I know in the intro I said that it was a combination of business, you said, and health crises that brought you to coaching. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what that journey was like and how you came across the principles and how they impacted your life, if you can remember all of that.
Oh, I can remember it. I've told the story more than once. I'll try to make it fresh. No, it's a great story. I mean, for me, it was. I had several business careers and ended up working in Morgan Stanley eventually as a financial advisor, wealth advisor. I'd like to call it a fancier name, and did very well at it, and then ended up partnering with another advisor so we could combine resources. And we started our own firm. It's a long story, right in 08, 09. So it was a nightmare, and took the next 3 years trying to straighten it out, and never really straightened it out. And eventually I just burned out on it. So that was when I realized that is when the good stuff began, because I had no idea how I was going to get out of this partnership. I had a contract and blah, blah, blah. And the company we joined decided to buy me out. They would buy me out of my contract. So I was gone. And it was the biggest relief to get out because I was exhausted. For a month, I mountain biked. I live in Marin, just felt great. Jesus, I was like, I needed the rest. But I kept getting more and more and more and more tired. I mean, really tired. And then my back gave out and my prostate. Oh, my God. And thus began a year of, really big health problems. And so my plans for my next business just went out the window. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't have the energy. And so make a long story short, about a year later, I'd gotten some of the stuff dealt with, and I ended up just trying a coaching day, with a somatic approach to coaching at a place called the Strozzi Institute up here, and we're a really good outfit, and a body-centered approach to coaching. And thus began my coaching journey. It just immediately, something clicked about it, and I wanted to know more. And then I watched them coaching, and I wanted to be coached. So fast forward that 2 years, I'm coaching. I've got some clients, but I'm still searching for something. And I do a vision quest down in the New Mexico desert with some Lakota people, and it doesn't go well. My back goes out even before I go out. It went perfectly. I mean, and that's understanding. You got what you needed. Well, I didn't get what I wanted. And so I was about 2 months after that, somebody was working with a woman in England and just started working with her. She was a coach, and she suddenly she sent me a note. She said, I don't need coaching anymore. I run across this thing called the three principles, and I realized I don't need coaching. I'm fine the way I am. So I was a little disappointed, but more than that, I was curious. So I picked up one day, I grabbed Michael Neal's Inside Out Revolution. And I remember sitting at the dining room table, reading it, starting to read it. And I don't know, I was about 10 minutes into it. And there was something about living in the feeling of your thinking. And I got it. It happened to me. It was just this moment, profound moment where I saw it. Where I fell into something, and I looked around, and I knew what he meant. It was the universe's thought. At least as much as you can describe one of those indescribable events. Mm-hmm. Voice in my head said, your life will never be the same, which is the first time the voice in my head has really ever declared anything. And I also knew, which was the hard part, that I could never coach again the way I'd been coaching. That what I'd just seen was, I'd experienced a transformation that you take years or, to do in the way I used to teach. So that launched me. And that's a whole story there too. Because I had another insight 2 days later, and I was flying for a while. And then I hooked up with, I found Mark Howard. I had to be coached, and he worked with me, and Dickin, and then ended up at the Pranskys, and my journey began. So that's how I got into it. It was funny because I worked with Mark Howard first. And I said, Mark, we met. He's a really nice connection. I've been reading about the principles for a couple of weeks. And he said, and I was like, I just spent 2 years getting certified as a coach. How long do I have to study this? Which at that point, I had already read enough to know that there's no way to teach it, right? There's no formula. There's no steps, which was kind of like, what does it take? And Mark said, and so you just start coaching immediately, start teaching immediately. Teach from what you know. Yeah. Big brackets on that, right? And I was a very enthusiastic coach, probably not very effective for the next about year and a half, until it began to dawn on me what teaching from what you know meant. And here I am 7 years later, 6 years later, still, growing my grounding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that's beautiful. So I forgot we have a few. Well, I remember when we very first met, it was in Salt Spring Island a few years ago. And then
we did.
Yeah. And then I remember, when I was helping out with the Pransky training, I remember you being up there saying, what's it like to be a mentee of the Pranskys? I remember at that dinner, and I think you and Deborah signed up the next day. And I also, as you were just talking, I remember we've had some pretty interesting conversations around some sort of plant medicine and other experiences.
Oh, yes, other experiences we've had. Yes, we've had some of those conversations.
We've had a lot of crossovers there. So that is, I think your story is so familiar to so many people. We're coaches, and then we come across this understanding. And I know for me, it was like, oh my God, I can't continue coaching like I used to coach. I've got to fess up to everybody that I've been taking them in circles. And now I know the way out. So that's wonderful. Now, I know that you work with a lot of people, what you call, that are going through transitions, such as retirement, career change, illnesses. So can you talk a little bit more about that, and what led you to specializing in that area?
Well, I think it's sort of like probably similar to your journey and some of the coaching you do. You're sort of looking for your niche. And I had a business experience, but my heart was in helping individuals, maybe nonprofits. I worked with some business people. It was just, it didn't inspire me that much. And I ended up over the last 5 years or 6 years working with people of all colors, shapes, sizes, and ages, from 18 to 82. And it struck me that I would like to focus. And so it was like, well, to focus on something. What territory do I know well? And it was like, I'm in my 60s and people would call it retired. I'm not retired at all. I hate the word because the definition is to withdraw. And I think if anytime I end any engagement with something, I want it to be for a greater engagement, different engagement, right? So I've been focusing on people going through a retirement, difficulty in retirement. And then there's these other things like empty nesters, there's divorcees, there's people on career changes. All of these are transitions, but it was really kind of like, I don't know how you turn them into something, that's identifiable. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I came across, what's his name's book? Bruce Feiler's Life is in the Transitions. I don't know if you can see that. And it was like, oh, there it all is. There was a lot of questions about myself, but it was a way to sort of say that everybody's going through this. That, we go through 4 to 6 major life transitions in our lives and about 24 smaller ones. We spend 30% of our life in a transition of one sort or another. When you think transition, you could think, leaving college for the work world. You could think parent dies or something like that. And there's getting married. There's all these transitions. And he organized it in a way, came up with basically 52 disruptors, like major and minor life events, good and bad. Getting married is a good thing, but man, it's a transition, right? As we both know. It was at least 5 years, maybe it was 20 years before I successfully transitioned that. We're in 30 years now, so the last 10 have been really good. And what they all share in his book is what I think. What's exciting about it is these transitions don't have to be as painful. We spend a lot of our life in them. Why not enjoy them? Mm-hmm. And for most people, a transition is a time of enormous unknown, uncertainty, questioning identity, questioning purpose, whatever, questioning your sexuality, all these things, which he has some 6 tools you can use. And it's a perfectly time-honored way to navigate this. But I think about this understanding from the inside out, that all the resistance and obstacles that people think they face going through it will be much different in the way, much smoother when you, from the inside out, start to see that you're making up the resistance. It's not there. And if people can glean some of that, then they'll be in a good place. So my take on it and bringing it, what am I bringing besides that is I'm really interested in how people take action from this understanding. Because Sid didn't speak about it much. He said, look for a good feeling. And so just in my own life, I've been observing things and starting to teach other people in a way to engaging in that good feeling, kind of in a further way, so that you're kind of dialed into the good feeling as much as as you can in what you do. So I don't know if that's enough to give you a sense of it.
No, it's amazing. And as you're talking, I'm thinking that, the whole world has gone through a major, major transition in this last year. I mean, life disruptor. I don't think we've ever experienced anything on such a global scale that has impacted everything.
Right.
I live here in Malibu, and I know where you live. You suffer from fires too, and sometimes, the fire last time came within 10 feet of my house. It burnt my partner's house down. It burnt a lot of my friends' houses, and the world doesn't quite understand what that impact is. But this is something that has brought us together. My family in the UK and in Europe, everybody is going through the same experience.
Right.
COVID.
Right.
So it's sort of fascinating to see. And I love what you were saying about resistance, hence my surrender sign. It is the resistance that causes the suffering, more suffering than the actual circumstances. It's right. the sort of fighting what is. But when you I know it's such a cliche, but go with the flow of what is coming through you. I mean, we certainly participate and feel the energy, like you're saying, and that good feeling. So much can happen in our lives. I mean, every moment is unknown. Every moment is actually a new transition. But I love what you're saying. And just to go back for a second, because you said about a niche. And the funny thing is I was not looking for a niche. The niche found me because I used to coach in codependency and narcissistic abuse. And I left that alone when I came across the principles, because I was a little bit too literal, and I thought, no diagnosis, no labels, can't do that anymore. And I threw the baby out with the bathwater, and in my sort of 3P zealousness in the beginning, but then it sort of came full circle, and I really see that we can, with this understanding, we can use language that people that don't know the 3 principles can understand, and they can come to us, and we then can share what we know. So I love that you are, helping it become more accessible to people, because everybody can relate to, like you said, death of a parent, divorce, retirement. Those are relatable issues that people can identify with. And then the gift that you give them when you share this understanding is so profound. So I love that you've found a way to communicate this to a certain sector of people that you resonate with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like you say, you point out, it's something I knew a lot about, but because I knew a lot about it, it didn't seem to be important to me. You knew a lot about all these narcissists, but it's like, well, that's too easy. I mean, I've got to find something more challenging to do, right? Who am I going to serve?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the way it looks to me. It's like, look around and I'm like, wow, 30% of the population is age 65 and over, or I don't know what the exact percentage is. 30% of them are doing okay. And a lot of people have a really easy time. They can't wait to retire. They know exactly what they're going to do. But you're getting in towards, you're always looking at the exit. And some people have a really hard time with it. So it's going to be fun. I'm just starting it in terms of offering people, and but it's all around us, and it's so interesting because in the book, one of the things that Filer talks about is that we tend to think of our life transition as linear. I go from babyhood to teenagehood, and then I go to school, get married, and we have these trends, and it's linear, and it's kind of. In ancient times, it used to be circular, and in the industrial age, and his research in this book is it's always nonlinear. It's always nonlinear. So here I was, and where that had insight for me was that here I find the work I really love when I was 60 years old. Right? And there's a part of you that's going, you should be retiring now. Other people are talking about blah, 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 and it's like there's something wrong. And just reading this, it was like there was no right time to do any of it. And to me, it's just kind of relief for people. I don't know if you work with young people, they've got to figure it out. What?
I've got teenagers up to whatever age, and not just in narcissism and codependency too. I walk all over the board, which I love. So. So, and then when we hear people like Judy Sedgman and Elsie Spittle, and I remember Judy saying recently, like, I'll never retire. This is so rewarding. This is not, retirement is a word that has a connotation to it. Some people see it as a relief, and other people see it as like a sort of a sentence of, you're getting older. But the reality is, if you just stay very present to whatever's happening in that day and do things you enjoy. And if it means coaching, if it means gardening, if it means painting or whatever it is, it's of the added layer of thinking on it that classifies it or puts it in a little box. You know what I'd like to do, George? I'd like to ask you, because I know you had struggled with your health, and I know the principles were so impactful. So just so that people get a sense of how the principles helped you with one of those massive earthquakes, as you described, that you had to go through.
Yeah.
To hear how the understanding helped you navigate that period of your life.
That period of life, well, it was particularly a little over a year after I stumbled into the principles, that I found out I had throat cancer. And I mean, that was just, I knew enough about my experience to always have a curiosity about, is this piece of news, or is this happening to me, creating my experience? Is this making me feel something sad or angry or frightened? I was just kind of always curious, and not all day long, but it was kind of, and so when I got the oncologist called me and said that the biopsy was in, and it was HPV-16 throat cancer. Good news is it was treatable and curable. And we hung up the phone. There was a part of me that I just remember standing there, looking around and looking down, and I think at myself, in my physical self, and I think I must have worked out that morning or taken on, because I felt really good physically. And I looked down, I thought, I feel completely healthy. If somebody hadn't just given these words to me, there's no sign at all that I have cancer. It was kind of like an alien thing. And there was something about looking at my health inside. I had another one of these moments. I fell into something deeper. In that, I looked at what I feared most about losing my life, because of course there was actually more of that. With throat cancer, as a coach, it's hard to do it if you can't talk or stuff like that. So there was all this future stuff that started pouring in. And the greatest fear of all was like losing my connection with my family. I live for belonging. Belonging is my great purpose and, motivator. I love to, and I see my wife and I imagine her, and I see that in the moment, I see this bridge between a connection, this bridge between us as the connection. And in that moment, I notice up above in the sky, in my mind, that is, there's cancer. And in that instant, I knew that the cancer couldn't touch that, couldn't touch the connection. And then a further dark thought came in my mind, well, what if you die? And I look at this connection with my wife. And I'm feeling the connection, and I see that it goes right through and right past her, to the edge of the horizon. And in that instant, I know that even if I die, even if the physical form falls away, we'll always be connected, that it's forever. And in that instant, all my fear about the cancer vanished. And I went down, it's funny, I went down to see my wife after to give her the news. And I was kind of excited because it was like, I had this really good feeling going. And the radio, and I was also knew that there was nothing to fear, right? And so I go down to my wife's office, and she stands up and looks at me, and I burst into tears, right? And they're kind of joy, it's a mix of things. And she looks at me, and I could see the horror on her face that she thinks this must be, you've got, a week to live or something. And I have to go, no, it's good news. It's good news. It's good news.
Oh, my goodness.
And so that was the first of several insights around health that I had. And it was the happiest year of my life. I mean, just in terms of my family and just really being connected at peace with the world. And then I had, some other insights around treatments and pain and just the body, We make up even our experience from the body. Now, the body is this electrochemical machine that sends out impulses. But our minds turn it into things we scare ourselves, we imagine things going on.
Gosh, that's such a beautiful story. I'm so glad you shared that. I think that brings so much hope to people that are, terrified by a diagnosis like that. And
we've worked with. Go ahead.
No, you go.
We started about a half dozen, 5 other 3 principals, coaches, all who are going through cancer, been through cancer. We started a support group because I interviewed a bunch of people who'd gone through cancer or were going through it and had their entire experience transformed in really meaningful ways. Just a sense of being, the innate health, which is more than just your well, it's that you're okay, that we all have this extraordinary wisdom, this intelligence behind life, which we can bring to bear on these incredibly difficult decisions you have to make often in the course of treatment. And so we got it going for a while, and we didn't have enough momentum, but I know talking to people, I spoke to several people, and it wasn't hard pointing them upstream for them to kind of begin to see it. Because what cancer, to me, my theory, my hypothesis, is it's like a tsunami about your future. It takes all your hopes and dreams and aspirations and imagined things that are going to happen. It's just, they're gone. And for some people, that's terrifying. Some people end up looking within, and then they sort of discover, oh, I'm still here. I am still here. And that kind of connects them to real wellspring of resources, of resilience and hope and life energy.
Yeah, it's such a, my niece, tragically died very young from cancer. But I remember her so fiercely. She was diagnosed, it was insane, at 24 with colon cancer. And she battled it for many years. I think it was 24, 26. But anyway, it went on for about 6 or 7 years longer than she was told that she had. But that ability to be in the present moment was so evident with her. It was like, I don't know how long I've got. I just want to be here right now, and just be with family, be with love. And, we don't know we have a future. That's all made up. So when we can have dreams and aspirations, but we don't know what's going to happen the next day. And I think something like cancer, more than anything, has you come right back to center and just, be in the present moment, because it's so precious, and that's all you really have. And I hear so many people. I remember I had the privilege of interviewing Wendy Sagasi, and the same thing. She said that, the diagnosis of cancer, the richness and the depth that it brought within her family, her love, her husband and her children, and again, she survived much longer than she was told she would survive, but every moment was precious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a reminder of how many of us don't live in the present moment. We're off in the past or in the future, and we're missing the only thing we have, which is right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, if you're able to live in it, it seems to me, even for a week, you've lived a full life. Because if you're really living in that, those of us on the outside say, oh, life was cut short. But for the person going through it, it is the fullness of life. A lot of belief that death somehow ends it. And we don't have to get into that. But the sense that, of course, this goes on. And anyway, I think that's all I want to say about that. It's just my sense that all there is the moment. Mm-hmm. And we make up a lot of stuff about time.
But it's so beautiful to know that. I think it's always so important when people have challenges like that they know the person they're working with knows what they've been through, knows as best we can. I know we all have separate realities, but know as best as we can that somebody at least can identify with the experience we're having. Like I said with the codependency and narcissism. I know what it feels like. I have compassion for my clients, but I also know the way out, which is very uplifting and very joyful for me, because I'm like, yeah, follow me. I got out. You can too. And it's the same with you with, dealing with people that are faced with health challenges. You can help them through that navigating that life-changing event. And
yeah, absolutely.
Retirement too, so.
And I wish more people would take us up on it. Some of our Entre Boyd and some of the other people are, she's a nurse advocate to begin with. She's on the inside are pursuing ways of bringing this understanding into medical settings. George Pransky talks about psychological fitness, readiness to have it as a course of counseling when you get the news, as a way of kind of getting you a different understanding of your life, because it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And it makes the decisions, it gets you grounded in the present. I'm just thinking, a good friend of ours just found out she has breast cancer, and she's someone who's never done any internal inner work, right? And so she's absolutely terrified of the breast cancer. And she's in her 50s. And what's really hard is that she's so frightened, the anxiety, she can't even hear what the doctors are saying. And those people, they end up with this urgency thing. They end up rushing around. And it's like you really want to wish that they made people go through something where they taught them how to get a little bit present, because you need to be present. Doctors are going to say surgery, chemo, radiation, and you need to be able to be in on the conversation, accessing this innate real-time intelligence that's in us.
That's so great. That's so important. I love what you're sharing, and I see it coming, because it's so necessary. I mean, wellness has become this sort of popular word that everybody's familiar with right now, or mindfulness, I meant to say rather. And my hope is that 3 principles becomes as well known on the tip of people's tongue as the same thing as mindfulness, because it's as you said, it makes life so much easier, no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, we've actually come to the end of our show. I could love to continue this conversation with you, but we only have half an hour. So,
good. I'd run out of stories, so I thought, geez, for another 15, I'm going to have to make something up.
That's okay. So it's lovely seeing you again, George. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your time, Del, and I've really enjoyed kind of talking with you.
Oh, me too. So have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladeyjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.